And here we go. He just arrived, fresh. It just came home, right through the door. So let me give you guys, I think most people know who you are, but I always give my guests a little bit of an introduction. Let me check. Sec. Set up everything correctly, yeah. So for those who are not familiar with who progodlegend is, first of all, has been FCing for, like, you can probably correct me, but like for, I would guess, over a decade. I would have said probably like, I guess like 10 years or something. And always been on the, on the active side of wars in some shape or form, right? In most wars, you guys were always involved in some way. I don't know your alliance history, but I do remember you guys. You were in what's the ticker again? I forgot. Before test.
S2N, Nulli Secunda.
Nulli Secunda, exactly. And that's why I actually first, I think, fought you like with fleets and stuff like this. But back then I was doing like small stuff with like 20 bombers, sneaking around, killing some stragglers and shit like this. So I wasn't like serious FCing or anything.
Yeah.
And that was too like coming up to like the Halloween war kind of stuff and BTEC R and so on. And he's also in the This Is Eve trailer, which is like, that's I'm super jealous about, I want to be in that one. It's like, it's kind of nice, right?
Yeah, that one was interesting. I mean, they just happened to stumble upon that video, and I don't know why that video is 44 minutes long. I don't know how they sat through it and got to that particular part, but they emailed me and they're like, we want to use one little quote from you, and it ended up being the cooler part of the video. So it was nice.
Yeah, so someone must have submitted it, right? That's how it worked, I believe. So they put out a thingy, they asked for footage, and then someone submitted it. Probably the guy who made the footage or had the footage. And so also right now, like currently, you are one of the two leaders or main leaders. There's always a little bit of a structure behind every alliance, obviously, but two main leaders together with Willy, main leaders of test. We have fought, I think the two of us, we have fought just once recently, actually. I think, unless I don't remember correctly.
I never know who's FCing y'all's fleet. Is
so you fought in it before.
Or Pando or
yeah. Well, you kind of do know. Don't tell me you don't get things.
I think you learned from the smart bomb trick that we don't have comm spies. I had no idea y'all had fucking smart bombs on. Yeah.
Nobody on comms knew beside the 20 guys I actually involved, guys and girls.
Oh, well, that explains a lot.
So I was very careful with like, how do we set it up? Not everyone was a smart bomb Mac. And we should talk about that in a sec, because I have that big question, like, why the fuck did you guys land so late on an old result? So the setup, for those who don't understand, Test was there in Hurricanes. Hurricanes are really good at trading, and they had a lot of canes, and we were in max. And before, like a day or 2 days before, we fucked up, and we got maybe a week before, I don't even remember. I think it was a week before or something. We fucked up, we got a lot of max killed by those canes. So I felt like these guys are going to be confident. They want to land on 0 and just start murdering, which, kind of is what happened. But I set like 20 of my guys up with smart bombs and tried to blow them all up at once. But the problem is, so if we do the smart bomb thing and you guys find out, you just whoop at range. And then what? You start trading and we can't do anything. We're just going to look dumb, and, there's another mech fleet in the fucking shitter. I thought it's worth the risk, though. And it was kind of funny. My guys were up for it. So we gave it a shot. And the situation was, you guys were in system. We were in system, which is exactly what we wanted. But you had friendlies coming and we had friendlies coming, right? So I'm only interested in you guys. So I wanted to, get the fights engaged right away, because your friends might just, shit on us. And we might just lose all our max before you guys even have the chance to whoop on us. So I expose our fleet right away, and I'm sitting there at a bad spot. And I'm actually, you say spy on comms. I actually say on comms like, oh, what a shitty warp in, just to, if there's a spy on
Yeah.
comms, he might just tell you, hey, they just fucked up. They're all untethered. And I'm sitting there, nothing happens. You guys are not warping, and I'm getting nervous. I'm really getting nervous at this point. I'm like, shit, are they checking the guns? And then I don't see any guns. And in that case, you would have warped at range, and we would have been fucked. And nothing happens. Nothing happens. And then you guys warp, but because I was like worried you would, see it, I got the fleet aligned. So we drifted a little bit off our initial warp in. And then you guys warped, and I expect us, you guys to warp right on the result when you get it. But apparently, you warped to a result that you got early from probing. So we drifted away from that. So you landed a little bit outside our smart bomb range. We couldn't effectively kill everyone and just kill like cruiser or low EHB stuff. And I don't know why. So what the fuck happened? Like, why didn't we, get you on?
I mean, I saw you warp in, and I knew like all the goon fleets weren't there yet, and the PL fleets wasn't there yet, and everyone wasn't there yet. So I was like, God, why are they doing that? That's so obvious. I don't know. Like I'll tell you, the thought of smart bombs never crossed my mind. But the fact that you warped to a ping right there and just kind of sat there, I was like, that looks dumb for. And then you started aligning away, and I was like, well, maybe they did make a mistake. Let me go tackle them real quick. And so yeah,
All right.
once you aligned away, that's why I warped to y'all.
So, like, you know how it is. When you fuck up a fleet, I mean, it wasn't a major fuck up, it was good fun and stuff. But
Yeah.
I felt like shit. If I only would have been a little bit more patient and had just regrouped the fleet and just sit there, you would have warped on 0. But would you have warped on
Yeah.
0, or would you have said,
I
probably
was
not? You would
very
have warped at
weirded
10,
out that
maybe?
you. I was very weirded out that you warped a Mac fleet that was like half our size and just sat there. It seemed odd to
That's what
me.
I thought. That's why I
I
started
couldn't.
aligning.
Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah, the smart bomb thing never crossed my mind. And when I warped us in, like I didn't real like I knew, obviously I hadn't run the probes again, but I didn't know exactly how far you had drifted. And I wasn't even thinking about it. Like when we landed, I see the smart bombs going off, and I literally told my guys, I was like, we might be dead here, but anchor up and overheat your hardeners. Let's try and get out of here.
Oh,
You
shit.
killed everything that was smaller
Besides
than a
Canes.
hurricane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had just like I had those anti-bomber steeples, and like we lost all of them, and I was like, well, fuck. Now not only are we gonna, if we don't die to smart bombs, we'll die to the bombers soon after. But we never did.
Yeah, there was
During
no
that
bombers
fight,
on grid at that point, I think. They weren't set up or something.
no, and yeah, and then during the fight, I just made sure to sit inside of the bubbles. But yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that in these big fights or these big fleets, like you don't there's a lot of fog of war there, and you end up getting lucky sometimes, and you try a bunch of shit and it doesn't always work, and most of the plans go out the window pretty early on. You just kind of winging it from there. So yeah, I mean, you messed up, I messed up. It just it kind of goes like that
Yeah,
usually.
we kind of met in the middle. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure the ISK trade you won. I'm pretty sure because we killed only Tech 1 stuff and Swipwells and stuff like this.
Yeah, we ended up killing like 20 max, I think. But yeah, I mean, if Goons and them had gotten there sooner and started to fight right after, my Hurricane fleet was kind of combat ineffective for a little while, but it took them so long to get there that we were able
But
to bridge in reinforcements.
yeah, so for me it was tricky. Like I knew our friendlies aren't ready just yet. I was hoping they would get ready quick enough so they take advantage of the situation, which is all the Hurricanes are low shields and a lot of support is dead.
Yeah.
But like I was worried. That's why I did it early. I was worried about the hostile fleets coming in, and if they're on grid, like I can't do it anymore. And then we're sitting there with our smart bomb max, and getting how it is. You can't get the smart
Yeah.
bomb max on 0 while the fight is kicking off. We have to be the initial fight. So I thought,
Well, that's
it's the
why
right
I
timing.
always I don't know. I've always preferred I've always preferred bombers to pipe bombing. I've never been a big fan of pipe bombing. It's just so hard to pull it off because you really only
Yeah,
got that 5 kilometer, 6 kilometer diameter.
yeah, but
Um,
bombers alone wouldn't have done it. Yeah, The combination would have done it. If I
Yeah.
would have had like one more bomb squad there, it probably would have done it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was surprised you didn't field Stukas. Stukas would have fucked our Hurricanes up at some point during that fight.
Yeah, the problem is like with Stukas, and you should know that. I mean, Gokus
Yeah.
are basically the first version of Stukas. Um, Once the TiDi kicks in, the advantage is really not that big, right? Like in a fast fight, like I'm very confident I catch any subcap fleet with a Stuka wing. But in TiDi, like I'm gonna get a
Well,
headshot. My command destroyer is
that's why I prefer to run it in heavy tie-dye fights, like like a properly anchored AHAC fleet rather than the bushing fleet, which I know you can't do anymore. But
Yeah, with
well,
25.
you can if you and we've thought about running it like a snake, where you have one anchor anchored 10 kilometers behind the next guy, and the logi are in the middle, and you basically have three anchors, and they go in a little snake. But I don't know
Hmm,
if that would be. I don't know
that's
how well that would work.
complicated though.
Yeah, yeah.
So you have like, so you assign like one busher, like every group has like numbers, and then you say bush one, and then like all groups
Well, you
basically
boosh all at the
bush.
same time, so you don't get you lose a
Yeah,
lot. You don't get the whole like I'm gonna boost to 30 kilometers and bomb type thing, but at least you can reposition. But yeah, you got your second anchor keeping it range 10 kilometers on the first anchor, and your third anchor keeping it range 10 kilometers on the second anchor. And you're basically a little snake, just going around the field.
yeah, it would be too complicated. I mean, people always tell me like, "Oh, Pando, just have like 25 man squads." Like, come on, guys! Like, I kind of
Yeah,
see five of
I
those fleets. Like, one is hard
yeah, it's
enough.
I don't think people realize how tough it is. And
Yeah,
that's something that's always really frustrated me about EVE Online is I tell this to FCs a lot of the time. I'm like, we really only ever scratch the surface of what's possible with the game mechanics because we don't like have time to practice and train with 250 people. Like if you look at the AT is a good example. If you see what the AT teams are capable of when they get months of training and they've got motivated pilots who are going to show up to practice every day, they could do all kinds of crazy stuff. The things you could do with a 250 person fleet if you did months of training before having a fight are tenfold, more
yeah,
complicated and capable than what we actually pull off. Most of the tactics that every big alliance uses, and even the elite quote unquote alliances, they're made to be simple and easy to learn so that you can have people who haven't played in 3 weeks show up the next day and still be able to fight. It's
yeah, they have to be. Yeah,
yeah, so I've always I've always wished that we could find a way to train people up to do some complicated we've tried a couple of things, but we still have to keep it simple, and then we have to do it at like every fleet for 2 months before most of the fleet picks it up, and then still we've got like a corporation that joined last week and none of them know how to do it and things like that. So
yeah.
it's definitely I think a lot of people who aren't FCs don't realize how you have to kind of herd a fleet of 250 people into doing stuff. It's very difficult to kind of pull off anything other than basic anchoring and calling F1 and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that's why you have still groups like, for example, next week I'm gonna have a Starfleet commander on who is the CEO and main FC for Volta, and it's a significantly smaller group than Init or Test would be, but they can still they can punch up because they're a smaller group. They have more high skilled players that are more involved, more active, so they can actually do certain things and train them to a degree, like daily with their fleets. Um, so they
Yeah.
can do more and be more effective with the numbers they have, right? It's
Well,
less
the main thing
casual
is they don't
gameplay.
have to anchor. And I think like the easiest way to explain people how
Well, they
you
do it still.
could do a fleet, some do, but like you don't have to. And like one of the common ways to counter a hack fleet is to just go tackle the anchor, right? And like
Yeah.
if you could train people up enough, you wouldn't have to anchor. You only have to do that because it's impossible to communicate to 200 people where to move their ships when they're moving that fast and positioning is that important. But I mean, in theory, you don't need to anchor. It's the easier way to do it, and it works more effectively than just flying around all over the place. But I mean, you wouldn't have to anchor. You could have logistics do all kinds of crazy shit. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff if this were, a sports team, or, we were actually paying these people. So it's I it's a lot of the FC stuff is, unfortunately we only ever get to scratch the surface with what's possible.
Well, maybe one day, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what we need to make cool shit possible is like activity. That's the number one thing. Like in every alliance, I believe that should always be the focus anyway. So the more you like, the more chances you have to undock and do stuff, the better the FC is going to be, the better the fleet is going to be, you know, over time, the fleet members. That's probably
Yeah.
also the main reason why you only have 2 or 3 main FCs per bigger group. Like, you don't see like 10 main FCs in any group because there's only so much room. If you want to be a good FC and you want to have a good FC in the top, obviously, that dude has to be active. Like, you can't just, you know, log in every once in a while and then, you know, you need to be in the
Yeah,
go in
there's
the
not a lot
in the
of
meta.
opportunities to learn. It's unfortunate, but there's not. So yeah, there's usually only a couple of FCs, and then it's hard to find low stakes opportunities where you're willing to let new FCs learn,
Yeah, that's
and which
yeah.
means you're willing to lose essentially, So, um, I think that's partly a product of game mechanics and partly a product of just big groups not learning how to train their FCs properly. And no one's really good at it. I mean, we're not good at it. I saw goons are going to let they basically gave the keys to Typhoon fleet to any FC, and they're willing to whelp them, which is how you do it. That's how you train FCs. But
They've got the
um,
they've got the ISK for it, right?
yeah, they got the S for it, they got the security for it, and they're on timers they don't really care about. So yeah, it's not always easy.
Yeah, I mean, so you're bringing up goons like, and then the whole, you know, war situation up north. I'm not sure if you even want to talk about it, but
I mean, you
what
can
do you
ask me
think?
questions. I may not give you very straightforward answers, but you can ask me whatever you want.
You're gonna give me the spin answers? No.
I
Uh,
only ever tell the truth.
well, then, I mean, what do you think is gonna happen then exactly? Do you think goons are gonna deploy up and do just the third-party Typhoon thing, or
Well,
you know,
I haven't had a chance to sit down and listen to the fireside. I
I
only
haven't
saw
listened
the
to it either.
from what I heard, and I could be wrong. If there's any goons in chat who want to correct me, it's not like it's secret. Um, they're coming up with typhoons and sacrileges and regular capitals, no supers. I don't know where they're gonna stage. But yeah, I mean, Asher's active, Jay's active. All their big FCs seem to be active right now, so I imagine they'll get pretty good numbers. And it might like GOTG struggling only because it's a two-front war, not because they don't have the numbers for it. So if goons add an extra full fleet or two, I'm not sure if Pan Fam will be
Depends
able
on
to
the
do
time zone.
much. Yeah, depends on the time zone, but I mean, they get pretty good AU numbers too. So yeah,
Oh,
it's definitely interesting.
so Rain is
I don't know.
asking. Sorry, you don't know what?
Oh, I don't know. What logi does a Typhoon fleet use? I
Yeah,
don't know. Probably
she's
Guardian.
asking. No, she's asking because as like what I heard is they're using Frigg logi for them, which
Oh, that
is
would make sense. That's something I'm a
well, it
big
doesn't make
fan of. Is
sense
using because I don't understand why no one else has figured this out, but like armor logi sucks, and especially medium and large armor reps. They're terrible. We don't use them for test has been shield only ever since the logi nerf for a long time, and anytime we bring back an armor fleet, we use our special guardian fit that has 3 small reps on it. Um, like
because of the
the
cycle time.
delay. Yeah, the delay ever since they
Yeah,
nerfed Logi is unconscious. It's terrible, and I don't understand. I guess like a lot of people aren't theory crafting it, but it's really simple to understand. So if you're up against a fleet, let's just use arbitrary numbers here, that does 20,000 DPS. The enemy fleet does 20,000 DPS. You have to multiply that by 4.5 seconds. So they're doing 90,000 damage in the time it takes for your reps to cycle. So you need an extra 90,000 effective hit points on your ships than you would for some similar shield doctrine. And it's really like 3.5 seconds, because usually your armor logi has a sensor booster and locks a little faster. But I mean, you need like an extra 60 to 80,000 EHP on your armor ships compared to your shield ships. And I mean, you design doctrines. It's not easy to find 60,000 extra EHP.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, armor ships usually have a little bit of a better tank, but not that much. So it's I mean, like if they're using Frig Logi with small reps, that makes a whole lot of sense. I've always wanted to do that. We just use a Guardian that has 2 Tech 2 large reps and then 3 Senti A type small reps
Yeah.
instead.
But obviously, the major concern is then those Frag Logi have way less EHP. You know, let's
They're
say
basically
there's
unkillable though. I mean their
well,
their speed to sig is unbelievable.
but
If
if you
they're
warp in
anchoring
100
them,
corms at range, you're just gonna blob them quicker than you lose your corms, and then you just warp out. The whole Logi wing is gone, right?
yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
you
if you
do
got
have
a
to bring those
you got a
corms.
spare 100 corn pilots, yeah.
Yeah, but like there's other doctrines that can do the job that the corms would do. That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely killable, but honestly, I think Logi are always pretty vulnerable, whether they're Guardians or they're Scimitars.
That
They're
is
all
true.
easy to kill. They have low EHP. If you can track them, you can kill them. It's just, do you want to sit there wasting your time killing 30 Logi while you're losing 30 DPS ships?
That is always, I mean, that's a lot of times the big question. Like when it's like doctrines, like let's say mutants versus mutants, maybe not so much, but like in general, that's always the question. If you have the chance, should you kill Logi or should you just, try to remove so much DPS so you can tank more comfortably? Always like that one big question in every engagement, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other doctrines do you think, like ship types or whatever, would you love to, bring back or fly that, kinda isn't viable at the moment? Is there anything?
I mean, there's a lot of battleship doctrines that aren't really viable if you don't have capital umbrella. Um, I mean, they kind of are, but I don't know. It depends on what capitals you're up against. But a lot of the battleships aren't viable because of just the hack meta. So like all shield battleship fleets are automatically out. You can't use any battleship that doesn't have a sensor booster, and you can't spare the mid slots on a shield battleship fleet. Um, and then a lot of the armor battleships just aren't quality enough to do it. Yeah, the way the problem with the damn hack meta, although I love it, I love the ADC. I think it was one of CCP's better ideas. But you got to be able to lock fast enough to where they're not sitting there just calling out all your targets and pre-doing their ADCs, and they're still doing it sometimes. But you got to be able to lock fast enough, and you got to be able to track without paints and webs, because you don't have time to put paints and webs on the target. If the target sees itself being painted and webbed, it knows to hit its ADC. Um, sorry, one sec.
Resubscribe to Pando.
But
That's
yeah,
so
so
hot.
I mean, it basically limits your options. You got to have a long range battleship that can track well enough and can lock relatively quickly. So it needs some mid slots for SIBO. And that basically leaves you with like your APOC and your Megathron. The Abaddon, although Abaddon's a little shaky sometimes. I know y'all use them, but they're much better
Yeah.
doctrine when you have a capital umbrella than when you don't.
We had
It's
minor
perfect for what
issues
you
with them.
guys have. Yeah. Um, Tempest Fleet issue, Machariel.
Well, the Tempest Fleet issue is an interesting part because there's not enough supply, I think. Like last time I checked, you can't even run them in a big group. You're gonna run out of Tempest Fleet issues, and obviously, the price is gonna go fucking high. So
Yeah.
Max kind of work to a degree, I guess.
Yeah, and God, the Typhoons are now pretty decent. Um,
Yeah, but in a large scale fight, if you bring Typhoons more than once, people are gonna get a firewall, it's not that hard to counter them. It really isn't. I would say at least. Norman says Drakes. I think all missile boards from at a certain degree, like at a certain size of engagement or war, people will be prepared for missiles. That's just what
oh
it is.
yeah,
If you
like
know they're bringing missile
missile
boards,
doctrines have their pluses and minuses for sure.
yeah.
Um, So like, I mean, that's one thing we were talking about. I don't think it's too revealing to reveal this, but you know, our FCs are like, well, goons are bringing all missile doctrines up north. Like that's interesting, but it does leave them vulnerable in certain ways. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, that's
But
firewall probably,
I'm
right?
I'm glad they're using the sacrilege. I mean, I thought the sacrilege was pretty underrated, and now that it just it needed a little more damage, and now that they buffed heavy missiles, I think it does. So
Yeah, we actually had a sacrilege doctrine called, oh shit, what was it again? The fucking African penis fish. I forgot the name of
Jesus.
it. Because they're cap stable and they have like a medium newt, and then they have the mid slots to have scrum web. So if you tackle something, you've got a scrum, you've got a web, you've got a newt, you can do a lot of
You can
stuff
do
with them
anything
because
in those mid
they've got
slots.
so much
It's
cap.
so incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I don't think a lot of people know why that is, but I was on the CSM
can
when the
do.
hacker balance was going on, but the sacrilege used to have a cap recharge bonus. So like when the hack rebalance happened, the first one,
They removed
um,
it.
they all got extra cap recharge, so that they could MWD permanently. Because CCP wanted to give them this MWD bonus, which the one they have, the roll bonus, and then they could none of them could run their MWDs permanently. We were like, that's pretty stupid,
Well, I'm not sure
to
if that
make them
was.
MWD boats.
Is that a good thing though? Like that's one of my.
I generally like it, but the sacrilege
Why is
was
the
the
Munin, for
sacrilege got
example?
that. The sacrilege got that plus its cap recharge bonus built into it. So you can do like it has insane cap recharge, so you can
That
do
is
anything
true.
in the mid slots. So you're like, is the permanent MWD Munin fleet thing a is bad or?
Yeah, like so Munins are strong. They're super strong. It's just how it is.
I
And
don't
the
think
the cap
they're
stability is one of
so.
those things, right? Things.
I think it's the ADC. Like before the ADC came out, you didn't see Munin fleets rolling around. They're the same ship except they have the ADC now.
No, they got an extra mid slot when
Well,
they
even then, no, people weren't
everyone
using
was
Munins a lot for
no no
big
no no no
fleets. No, not like they are
when
now before the ADC.
when they brought, that's when everyone started flying Munins, when they gave it an extra mid. I'm not sure what was the ADC in the same patch,
It
maybe.
was in the same patch, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's the combination of things. I would say it's not all the ADC.
Yeah, but you wouldn't without the ADC, you wouldn't be flying around 70k EHP, 300 million ships, 250 million ships. It's
I don't know.
basically suicide. They're not
Well, they
that
die
much better than Hurricanes,
a lot of times.
if
They
they
die
don't have
anyway.
the ADC. Yeah.
Like a lot of times they can't ADC if you fire on lock. That's
Well,
basically
yeah,
it.
I
Munins
mean
versus Munins, for example.
that's how you beat them. But yeah, I don't think people would be trying them if they didn't have the ADC. But yeah, like I mean, that's why we're using battle cruisers in the north. Like hacks are counterable. They're good. They're really good. Being able to maneuver around the field like that is super valuable. It makes engageability, especially in the era of capitals being as OP as they are. You need that disengageability that MWD hacks have.
Yeah.
Um, but you're right. Like if you're able to lock quickly and track, a lot of pilots just aren't capable of hitting their ADC fast enough before they take a lot of damage. And they don't have to die. If they hit their ADC and they only have 20% shields left, that's too late. That ADC only works if you've got all of your EHP still remaining. Um, yeah, so like I think the MWD Munins, they're strong. MWD hacks are strong, but they're counterable. I mean, we've been beaten up on Eagle fleets with Hurricanes just because Eagle fleets. If you're gonna sit there and anchor them, there's ways to counter that.
But so it's also interesting you bring up the whole like disengageability, right? So you can't get away with hack fleets, which is one of the most important aspects of it. Which is
Yeah.
also what people said why Stukas or Gokus would be OP, because they can just MGD out and disengage. Like, you can't, it's not easy to pin them down. And, everyone's
I
flying hacks
was
is
on the
fine with it.
side that boosting 200. Well, the disengageability with the boosters was a little too strong. You could, no matter where you are, 200 people instantly out of bubbles, already aligned, kind of thing. You'd have to kill all the command SEs in like 2 seconds before they do it. At least with the MWD hacks, like you can send some tackle after them, tackle them, bubble them. They still got to get out of the bubbles. So yeah, I mean, I think the boost change was mostly good. I mean, I didn't like it was supposed to be something to disrupt fleets, not move around entire fleets, like they were. And I
Yeah.
used it. I mean, we used it too. Like everyone used it, so
I would say everyone tried. Everyone tried, and not a whole lot
true
of
that.
people did use it really, right? You guys
Yeah,
used
no,
it, we
not nearly
used
as much
it.
as you guys did. Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot of people actually mastered it. And I think one of the reasons is what we talked about earlier. Like, we used them a lot and failed with them a lot at the beginning. We had to learn it first.
Yeah, so your pilots, I would say initiative pilots were more trained up on boost fleets than anyone else in the game, and
Exactly.
it's because of the repetition. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So our guys were used to it. I was used to it because I was not flying anything else. I mean, I was flying small scale stuff and maybe like a Munich fleet or something else in between here and there. But mostly 90% of the time, I was flying Stukas. So like I was quick with my decision making and all that shit. And that's, the only way you get it is with like flying fleets. If you take out
Yeah.
fleets, that's the only way. And I think a lot of people that then said, "Oh, it's super strong," and tried it and then failed, which happened a lot of times with like Stukas getting smart bombed or whatever, and they realize, it's not always that easy, or they engage units and get completely murdered, which is usually what the outcome should be if you do engage mutants in Stukas, but it's like, they didn't have enough practice. And, by the time they had a little bit of practice, the hostiles probably had practice fighting us or you guys, so they were already a step ahead. So they had a harder time learning than we had. That's at least what I think. All
Yeah.
right. So from FC style perspective, like, so I like that kind of shit, the bushing and stuff, which is not that, sadly. But what do you think is your unique approach, or what do you think is makes you different to other FCs?
Uh, well, I mean, I know you do this too, so I'll come out and say it since we're both on the same side on this one. But like, if you're not in PIFA theory crafting, there are a lot of FCs out there who don't actually theory craft the fleets they run, and they don't truly understand the numbers around what their fleets are capable of and all that. And it's very noticeable when an FC takes a fight that he never had a chance of winning because he doesn't know that his fleet can't even break the reps of the enemy fleet. They just don't have the math doesn't add up.
Or the
So
other way around too. Sometimes they don't
yeah,
take the fight they could actually take.
yeah, I see a lot of FCs don't take fights they could win, and it's frustrating. So yeah, I'd say like there's a divide between FCs who do theory craft and ones who don't. It doesn't mean there's not really good FCs among the ones who don't, but if you're an FC and you're not actually in PIFA learning the numbers, then you miss opportunities that you didn't realize. So I'd say there's a little bit of that, but I don't know. My style is, oh god, that's a weird question.
Just wing it, be adaptable. That's kind of the category I
Yeah,
would put you in. Like the more like, okay, let's undock, let's get it done, and then
yeah, I like to try
hype the
shit.
masses.
So I do
That's a
like to
big part
try
too.
shit. Billy and I are a pretty good match because he's a more methodical. I wouldn't say careful, but he's very well set up, and I do like to just kind of wing some shit sometimes. But I'd say I like to try different things. I like to try and win with the subcaps and most, if we can, and try to avoid using capitals and supers. So, innovative subcap tactics if we can. That's the stuff I really like the most.
So the day CCP is gonna announce Supers and Titans are gonna get removed from the game, that's gonna be your happy day, right?
That would be the best. I've
Mine,
hated them
mine
ever
too.
since. Yeah,
And
I've
we
only
had
I've only been on the side with the super cap, advantage a couple times. I know like I fought with Pam Fam in World War B and Goons in the last war. But for the most part, I've been getting blobbed by Titans, not the other way around for most of my career.
Yeah, and we had Asher. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Asher put out a post
Yeah, we
about.
talked about that together.
All right, and then Killer B was on last week here, and we talked about it too. And it seems like everyone who has a shit ton of supers and titans says, "Yep, they're fucking OP."
Well,
Like
the FCs
we
do.
would prefer them
The
be removed. Yeah, I know. So there's a
I
big
think
problem with that. Yeah.
the line members, if I'm not sure they'd want their Titans and Supers removed, and because there's such a goal to aspire to, or whatever bullshit that is. And I know I'm pretty like I'm a bad person to ask about some of this stuff because like I don't buy ship skins. I don't have any personal assets. I don't even when I fly a monitor, I don't even have a target painted on it to kill male whore. Like I just care about so many different things than the average Eve player does that it's hard for me to see it like they do. And these people are like, oh, I've got my Titans with my special ship skin. Please don't take it away. I spent 6 months grinding for it or whatever. It was my end goal when I played Eve. And I'm sure that's important. I don't see it. I don't see what the big deal is. I'd much rather have better fights. Like
Yeah.
that's what the game's about.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they should realize things like this before everyone has a titan and super, you know? Like
Well, yeah, that
originally,
ship's
like they should have realized when they bring out citadels, they should have realized right away, oh shit, now supers and titans can be built way easier, way quicker, way less risk. And we actually buffed mining with the raw cuts and stuff, so there's going to be way more stuff coming in, and people are actually adapting to that, so there's going to be way more people mining and stuff like this, so there's going to be supers and titans everywhere soon. So they had the data, so you would have hoped they would see that a little earlier and then, put the brakes on it a little bit, which they
Yeah,
didn't still.
well,
But
I don't know. It's people buying skill injectors to get Titans, buying skill injectors to get Rorquals to mine up for Titans. Maybe it's what they wanted,
oh, please don't even say that. I hope it's not what they wanted. I don't think that's what they had in mind. And mistakes
Well,
happen. I just hope that.
I will tell you, Grath was right when he said that the skill injector and the Rorqual thing was to allow everyone else to catch up to PL and NC Dot, because PL and NC Dot had the largest super fleet for about 5 or 6 years, or more than that, and they abused everyone with it for a while, and it caused a lot of issues. So the CCP solution was, and I told them this when they came out with it, that it was misguided, and I'll explain why. But their solution was, if we can't balance subcaps versus supers and titans, then let's give everybody supers and titans, and that'll fix the problem. And it somewhat makes sense, I guess, if you don't think about it very hard. But the problem is, and this is why I've always hated capitals and supers and titans especially, and I've said you're never, ever, ever going to fix this problem, is that I mean, the dirty little secret is that capital fights aren't fucking hard at all. They're easy as shit. The ships are literally stationary. There's nothing you can do once they're on the field. There are a little bit of tiny tricks you can do if you're an experienced capital pilot against an unexperienced one, but no one's fielding 200 Titans with an unexperienced cap fleet FC. So, like, once you got you've got these big giant cap fleets and you've got two FCs that know what they're doing, and if you lose your cap fleet, you no longer have your fleet in being, and you're going to lose all your space, and everything's going to suck. So if you've got 60 Titans and they've got 90 Titans, why the fuck would you jump in ever? So these
Yeah.
fights will never happen on a consistent enough basis for people to have fun. It's never going to happen with supers and titans, no matter how cheap you make them. They're not. There's no skill involved, and there never will be. So I've seen some ideas for capital rebalance that would make it somewhat interesting, but they basically the capital rebalance they're thinking of, or not that they're thinking of, that some pilots are proposing that actually makes sense, would once again put the actual important parts of the battle back in the subcaps. The subcap battles are what makes Eve interesting, because you can go into a fight slightly disadvantaged with the subcap fleet and still win through skill. You're not going to do it with a cap fleet 99 times out of
Yeah.
100.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of room to make plays, right? It's just,
Yeah.
it's a skill. I mean, there's a skill involved in like when do you field what at what spot. But You know, it's a
And
skill.
but even that part is mostly down to the subcap field. Like when do you drop your caps to help win the subcap fight? Not the, it's that's the subcap battles are what makes the game more fun. They're the kind of battles that can actually happen every day. Even if it was just dreads and carriers and they got rid of supers and titans, you still wouldn't see. Well, I
You would see
say that.
Jets
I
and
think all the
carriers. Yeah.
alliances. I think you would see it more often than I was about to say, because a lot of alliances would adjust without needing to worry about replacing supers and titans and building supers and titans. With the amount of ISK that the major blocks bring in now, I think we'd see dreads and carriers become pretty expendable. So yeah, you'd probably see some dread and carriers pretty often.
Yeah,
But even
I'm
then,
pretty
like
sure. I mean,
if I got
mostly
200
Jets.
dreads and you got 100 dreads, I'm gonna beat you if we get our dreads on top of each other. There's not a lot
Yeah.
to that fight.
Well, unless I'm long range Jets and you're short range Jets,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there's some cool things there,
Then
but
you could do something, but you're still stuck for 5 minutes. So
yeah.
you might
So
just
I
get your
mean, if they
Jets
can
on it.
find a way to get supers and titans off the battlefield, or if they can find a way, I've seen some ideas that would kind of
But so behind supers and
differentiate
fax,
them. But
supers
yeah,
and titans are the faxes. So let's not remove supers and titans. That would be. I just said it as a joke. Obviously, that's not even an option. That is not on the table. Will never be on the table. Right? Supers and titans will always be in the game. But
yeah,
what about faxes? Right? You could change faxes completely. In my
I don't
opinion,
think
I've
they'll do
all
anything. The
well.
faxes are
So
irrelevant.
no, they are relevant though, because then if you field 100 titans and I've got 100 dreads, I could field 100 dreads and say, I might just if I make you like reposition a little bit weird or like some bumps happen, stuff like this, I could field my dreads in a good way and trade favorably. So then in a scenario where you don't have 100 titans, or like let's say you just field 20 and you get set up, that's 20 dead titans potentially. But
Yeah,
even if
but
we
once
only get
again,
3, 4, 5, 6, we still trade well. So
these fights aren't complicated. So like, let's say they do get rid of faxes and that exact scenario comes up. It's not going to be like some kind of shocking surprise to me, like, oh, I fielded 100 titans and I fucked up and I didn't consider that I would lose 20 of them. There's no complicated skill there. That You didn't do
no, there
anything. You just
isn't.
dropped 100 dreads. So I'm not going to put 100 titans in that situation.
But
What you'd
that's my
basically be
argument
doing
though.
is balancing titans out of the game, which I'm all for. But just realize, like, if you take fax out, no one's going to use titans against 300 dreads if they're going to lose 30, 40 titans doing it. They're just going to field 300 dreads or of
Well,
their own. Then titans just they're out of the game, which is fine.
what
Fuck it.
exactly? That's
Just
what I was
balance them out.
saying.
I don't
it's
care.
like it's like that's not even that bad, is it? But like Titans still
Yeah,
have that option to then
but like,
escalate on top of it and say, okay, they fielded all
yeah,
their dreads, so now we can field our Titans to wipe out those dreads. Maybe it wasn't all Titans, all dreads. So they at least. I mean, it opens up the whole thing a little bit at least. And Titans wouldn't be the number one, go-to tool for everything, which is at the moment pretty much the case, right?
yeah, and we're actually having issues with our Titan pilots because they're like, we bought these things and we rarely get to use them against, like, even
Yeah,
when
I've
we
got the
drop them,
same
everyone
issue.
just runs. Well, everyone's got the same issue because, like, you
Yeah,
need them because if you don't have them, you're going to get blobbed by Titans. But,
try to use them.
you can't have a UALX or an X47 every month, so no one
Yeah.
gets to use them.
You you
It's a
want one
terrible
every month?
mechanic.
You
No, fuck
sure
no.
don't want one. Yeah, like once a
Yeah,
year, twice a year. I think everyone can
fuck that.
appreciate
Never
the.
again. I
Ah,
hated
come
that.
on. Like if you have
Dude,
that, it's part of
I
the
went to get
story,
Taco
though,
Bell
right?
during UALX. I shit you not. I went to get Taco Bell during UALX.
I went. I was cooking during X47. Like I was literally cooking between fucking target calling on the. I forgot. Was it the first or second? I had to take over target calling from Shiles because he was
Yeah,
disconnected or some
it's a
shit.
joke. Like,
Yeah.
they're cool fights because of the
But in the
story of
end,
Eve and
exactly.
everyone involved, but like they're not fun. Like
Yeah.
let's not
The fight
pretend they're fun.
itself, I'm not saying the fight itself I would love to, have again, but to miss that part of the story, it would be a little bit of a shame too, right? I mean, it's the same with your $1 million fight. That was actually your fault that like so many people showed up and it was the tie-dye that it was. Like that was the heaviest tie-dye I've ever experienced. And then obviously the whole fighter bullshit, and stop it. I mean, it was kind of
Yeah.
interesting, and I actually, was one of the first tweets I ever put out or retweeted or whatever. It was you with the $1 million fight, and I thought actually, oh, Eve gets some attention from the outside, which is great. You know what I mean? We need more of
Yeah.
that. So like, you know, but it's a bummer that this fight with all that hype behind it then turned out to be this, what do you call it? Shit show,
Uh, yeah, it's if
That
you can use
was,
slideshow, more like it.
yeah, exactly. With like, I don't know. That was the heaviest TiDi I've ever seen, and that's because of the hype it had. So it's a little bit of a shame. But what you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I mean, the mechanics could go somewhere where we wouldn't have the. I don't mind a big 3,000, 4,000 person fight every now and then. If you can keep them around 2,000 to 3,000, the server actually works all right under a reinforced node. Yeah, it's slow as shit, but like at least things are dying. And like, I've been in a 4,000 person fight before that even worked. So like, if you can get the mechanics in a place where supers and titans aren't the end all be all of everything, and subcap fights are happening regularly, and then you have a 3,000, 4,000 person man fight, yeah, I'm okay with it every now and then.
So what what if CCP figures out a way to get around the whole tie-dye situation, and then suddenly we can have fights no matter what size. There's gonna be no tie-dye, no lag, no nothing, and everything runs just perfectly.
Then then no one will ever feel their Titan fleet. If
Which is
even
good,
in
right?
UALX, you field your Titans and you're like, because of tie-dye, the worst it could go, we'll lose 20 to 30. But like, God, if there was no tie-dye and you're like, shit, if I fuck up, we're gonna lose 300 Titans. Like, yeah, I don't think anybody would ever field them.
Well, actually, in
Which once again, maybe
UALX,
that's not bad.
wait a second, UALX, was that the final timer? I forgot. It
Mm-hmm.
was.
It was a no. We were anchoring the Keepstar.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. That's a ballsy fucking move. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, did it anchor? You could have docked, I would guess. Yeah, you could have docked, sure.
No, it was an anchor in Keepstar, so we knew it was gonna die as soon as the Titans are fielded. But
But
we needed something. We needed something to get them to fight us in USTZ with our Titan fleet in an advantageous position that we could hype our pilots up. Like, we had to confront and this is the problem with the fucking meta. We couldn't beat them because they were using their supers at every fight. So to win the war, we have to confront their super fleet at one point. So we have to find a way to do it advantageously. And this is why, this meta sucks. Basically, we had no fights for a month and a half, and then we had UALX, and then the war was basically over. And so that's why I said if the mechanics were differently and we had fights, all the time, and then a UALX, I'd be okay with UALX. But when you got no fights because everybody's just dropping their Titans on everything that moves because Titans beat everything, and the only way to stop them dropping their Titan fleet is to drop your own Titan fleet. It sucks because after we won UALX, they didn't use their Titan fleet again, and we dropped Titans on everything, and they didn't fight us. Like, we had like, I think I put a post up on Reddit after X47. I was like, I'm glad to have won the war, but let's not forget that these mechanics are terrible. We just had like one of the biggest wars in EVE history, and there were no fucking fights. I mean, there were some, but not nearly as much as there used to be in the old wars.
yeah, I mean, you remember the times, I'm sure, when there was like an unspoken rule, or probably in some alliances, pretty much spoken, is that you don't field supers, titans, or any caps without subcap superiority, So only if you have more subs on field than the other ones, than your opponents, or you have the control of the grid, only then you would field your supers and titans. I know that's how we did it. Forced, obviously, also because NCPL were like super strong and usually in the area. So if we would
I
get
mean,
tackled,
I think
that would
I
be
think
the
the
end of
best
it.
example is, and this is why I'm trying to get to CCP dev. I wanted a CCP dev to be in our fleets a couple of weeks ago, and like you guys, when you had your super fleet in what's that system,
7
7RM?
RM. Hmm.
Yeah, like you drop supers, and we wouldn't even bother to like hold you down. What's the point? You know we can't do anything about it. You know we're just gonna lose
Well,
dictors.
you kind of did. Yeah, you kind of did
Yeah.
whoop in like a shit ton of dictors. That's when we wiped
Yeah, I mean, we
the
did for a little
battles.
while, but we stopped. Like, I
It,
mean, we coulda held you down much longer, but what's the point?
but
Like,
we
you guys are
fielded
dropping your super
subs.
fleet with impunity, basically. We have no way to counter it. It's
Yeah,
just, it's ridiculous.
but we fielded subs only for that one reason that, you feel bad having people formed up in a subcap fleet that you don't ever field because, I mean, we were outnumbered subcap wise, but we had supers and titans. So we knew, like, if shit goes south, we can field supers and titans and have the advantage.
Yeah.
Um, you could argue that that's the only reason why we fielded subs in the first place. I mean, otherwise we would have been heavily outnumbered. So, and that's the only reason why you couldn't just brawl us and go for
Well,
it.
yeah, those supers and titans could be carriers and dreads though, and I think we'd have a better shot than against the supers and titans.
Yeah, that's true. But
Like, I
still,
would
yeah,
love. So we had original plans to besides the Hurricanes and Feroxes, like we just introduced Serbs, but we were it wasn't supposed to be Serbs. It was supposed to be a battleship fleet. But when you guys had your Titans in theater, we decided not to do it because battleships are just too slow, and like we'll just eat lances. Like they nerf bosuns, which is great, but lances still exist. So like it's not that
even
hard to aim
bosuns
lances.
though. No, you don't need
Yeah,
one bosun, you need two. Right? You need a
yeah,
really low sig kind of fleet to tank bosuns. I'm not sure what the math is actually. I did the math on some doctrines, not on all of them. And I know there's at least a couple of them that need 1.8 bosuns to die. That's your entire fleet dead if you get caught by two titans. Two titans are not that rare, and you can set it up. Two good
yeah,
pilots, they can hit those bosuns all day, every day. So, you know, some doctrines are still very vulnerable to bosuns.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's a tough situation. Like I mean, supers and Titans have always been oppressive, but at least from 2012 to 2014, they were basically just grid holding anti-capital ships. You didn't lose your subcaps to them the moment they hit the grid. Now, like if you don't have your subcaps off the grid in 20, 30 seconds, like you're fucked. Like you
yeah.
don't.
Happened to us just yesterday, right? No, we're not flying Stukas all that much. Like I'm trying to hunt with Kikis
Mm,
mostly, right? Good DPS, not that easy to hit and stuff like this. So they've got some good advantages. I'm thinking about Tenem and Kikis. I'm not sure about that, but looking at it.
yeah,
But
that
yeah,
might be. I
one
don't
little
know.
one little fuck up. I warp onto that rock and a friendly dictator bubbles. That dude was tackled anyway, but hey, someone had to bubble us, right? And then
Yeah,
boom, supers jump in and you get just swarmed by shit, and those fighters are just on you so quick.
yeah. I
And
mean, people. I know a lot of our guys complain because they're like, it's easier to respond with supers than it is with subcaps. I mean, that's the real joke is that it's not only capitals aren't just better than subcaps, they're actually easier to use and respond with than subcaps because you don't have to worry about forming a fleet and make sure it has enough logi and getting it on Titan and doing all this stuff. You just say, hey, everyone undock your capitals and jump in. Not that big of
yeah,
a deal.
if someone's primary, yeah, we can just feed some faxes 5 minutes later.
The
It's fine.
Cyno changes are a little interesting. Because I mean, technically, if you were able to, if you set it up right, you could get them to jump in some capitals and then kill their recon, and maybe they don't have another one ready right away, and you can jump some
It,
dreads in, and I
yeah,
don't
it,
know, but
it gives room for mistakes. That's for sure.
yeah, I
You
know
know.
after they proposed the Cyno changes, I thought about whaling in a double SIBO armor Lokis. And they're not the best fleet comp, but I'm like, they can lock Cynos like in less than a second and volley them. So maybe that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, we had that before, definitely. People, I mean, yesterday, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I think it was yesterday. We actually fought you guys, and it was like not your time zone or whatever, and you fielded only Hordreds. It wasn't you FCing, but I'm not sure who was
In self
FCing.
defense, I have no idea. I don't even have
But that's
clones in
exactly
this
what
character.
happened. So we have a Cyno in up. You guys field your dreads and carriers at range, which is usually what happens. Our Cyno inhib is going to be primary at some point, but these caps, they warped over. That's a little bit of a mistake. So I waited till enough of them warped over, and then we killed that Cyno on those dreads and put a new inhib up, and then we killed actually one or two dreads or stuff like this. So it gives room for mistakes, which is great. But yeah, I mean, also Cyno inhibs, they're a little bit too weak, aren't they?
Oh
There's
yeah,
no
Cyno
way you keep
inhibs
them
are.
alive,
Yeah, you can't keep them alive. They're kind of pointless.
and
I
they're
mean,
not
they're somewhat
overlapping.
useful. They're somewhat useful to like force. I guess you got to force them in, but you force them to do some. I don't know. They're not that great. I
Yeah,
have to. I'm glad you said it. I have to explain that to our FCs all the time. They're like, "What if we use a Cyno inhib?" I'm like, "Guys, it'll be dead in 10 seconds. You're not. You're
yeah, it
not
just gets
defending
alpha.
yourself."
Yeah. We actually
Yeah.
did some stuff with Rodivas, like obviously Rodivas are usually they used to be they should be armor tank, but we used them in like Kiki fleets or also Stukas before.
Yeah.
So they can spool up and you get the most effective armor reps out of those, 3-4 guys. So you can tank them on shield and armor. And we had some success with it. At least we expanded the lifetime of inhibs to a degree. So we
Yeah.
managed to
I
get some
wanted to
kills
use.
with it.
I wanted to use a couple of faxes with capital hole reppers.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I mean, the biggest problem with the Cyno inhibs isn't that they have no resist. Well, the biggest problem is no resistance, but they also only have 10,000 shield and armor hit points.
yeah. It's the
So
structure.
like you can't even rep them up enough. Even if you do have enough reps, they'll
Just the
just
whole
slow
reps are too weak.
do it. Yeah, the whole reps are too weak. They take up too much cap too.
Yeah. So what I
Let's see
thought
if I have to
maybe
fix
you
it.
could do is something drone heavy. So you have a doctrine, let's say sacrileges. They also have 50 cubic meters or whatever it is uh, for drones. So they would have one set of mediums. So you could have those all in structure bots and put them all on the init. That would be a lot of
Are there
structure
structure
rips.
blocks? Yeah, there are. Holy shit. That's interesting. I mean, the
Even with
problem
the
is I
facts,
don't
I
know
would
if you have
argue.
enough rep power coming out of that. I mean, you don't, but
Yeah, I didn't do the math on sacrileges, but I was just thinking, that's the
yeah.
even in facts,
I mean, it's
facts
better
have a
than
bonus on
nothing.
it.
It's better than nothing. Like anything that buys you a little time. Yeah. If it makes them use 10 carriers instead of 5 carriers, and that's making them commit more, and it takes longer to get, 10 carriers. So yeah, like, oh, these whole reps, these capital whole reps aren't terrible. No, they are.
They're really
788 hit
bad.
points per second per
Yeah,
rep.
and the cycle time is so
Nothing.
long. They take ages and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So even one of facts, you're probably better off just fielding like a heavy set of Tech 2 hull bots. It's
Yeah.
probably more rep power. They
Well,
can obviously
I
get
mean,
rid of
they have no resistances. So like this fax is pushing out like 2,300 whole hit points per second. Well, it's only mitigating 2,300 DPS. That's like 2 carriers. It's nothing.
Yeah, so I'm hoping they're gonna introduce like Tech 2 or maybe faction inhibs or something like this. Yeah, so Tech 2 has
Yeah.
maybe a couple resists, maybe the faction one has a quicker anchor time or longer
Well,
range, or
or maybe
maybe you
maybe
can
the super
overlap.
carrier is global inhib, something I don't know. I'm all for non-combat support roles for supers and titans.
What we also tried was to spread inhibs out on the grid. Obviously, it's bubbles. You have to see it like a sphere around them where they inhib.
Mhm.
And because the anchor range from each other is 200 and they only have like a 100 km radius, you can't cover everything. There's always going to be holes. Right? But the few times we did it with like some scepters that burn out to certain spots and stuff, we actually had some good success. So that was actually Darkshine's idea to give it a shot. I mean, everyone probably saw it right away, but he said like, let's see, maybe we can do something with it, and we actually did. So I believe like if we had like faction inhibs, for example, that would overlap to a degree, so you can cover like make those holes even smaller, that could be a way to do it too, right? But then you need the
Yeah.
skill for each pilot to set those up quick enough to then take advantage. And, there's a lot of things that need to, work on. And one inhib placed wrong, you can't just, scoop it again and replace it. You have to kill it. And then, it's like it could be a headache too. But there will be a chance. That's all we're
Yeah,
asking
we'll
for as
see.
FCs, right? Opportunities.
Yeah, and more opportunities. Yeah, more. I don't know. More, lower stakes, maybe more consistent fights. It's. I don't even know where to go with it.
I wouldn't even say lower stakes, but yeah, I mean, in general, that's my number one thing I'm asking for the CSM or CCP is like more opportunities for content creation, right? If there's
Yeah.
more of that, and Citadels are in the way of that, the soft system is in the way of that, um, and then Super Sentai are in the way of that. Those are the three core issues I believe that I keep talking about and stuff like this. And I know you
Yeah.
had a
Well,
take on the soft system just the other day. I think I heard you say something about it.
what do
Was
you
it on
mean,
the?
like
You were on the
the
Meta show
this
on
month,
the.
or-
So was it on the Meta show or somewhere else? You were on one of the shows and you were talking about the soft system and when they first introduced it or they brought it up, you were on the CSM
Oh yeah, I was
and
on the
you thought,
CSM
oh,
when
it's a great
Entosis
idea.
stuff came out. Well, I had just read about it like 2 hours before. And before thinking, I mean, I didn't have time to think about it too hard. It sounded like a good idea, and I still think like
I agree.
the concept isn't bad. It needs more iteration.
I agree.
Um, it's definitely in. I think it's working okay now. If it had a little more work, it might work better. Um, maybe less nodes, but more percentage per node. Make sure they don't all spawn in the same fucking system. That's what kills it more than anything is the randomness of it, I think.
So my take on it is always I think there's too many nodes
I think
and
there's too
those
many notes
nodes
to do.
yeah, and those nodes run out too fast. So nobody in any FC position is gonna ever have the time or the
Yeah,
willingness to engage and fight for one of those
I'm
nodes.
all
There's
for
seven
defensive
others.
advantages. I'm all for defensive advantages, but I think they have too many at the moment. I think it takes the defenders complete nodes too quickly, and the ADM advantages are too strong. I wanted them more than anything. I want them to have the advantages of ADM. So basically, the ADM 6 advantage would go to what ADM 3 is now, and then it'd scale down from there. I think the ADM 3 advantage is fine. That's the most they should ever have. Um, I think the defenders should take 2 to 3 minutes longer to complete a node and then bump the attackers up to compensate so it's still the same scale from ADM 3 to
But
down.
so
Um, that would at least make it 8 minutes to complete a node from spool up, which gives you some time.
yeah, I would say
Um,
you need like 20 minutes. So
if
what
there's
I
less
wish,
nodes, yeah, then you can play around with that clock
yeah,
more too.
yeah, I wish there was just three constant nodes. So there's always three nodes. So any FC, you want to do the node war, there's three of them, right? So in your mind, you first of all you have like a little bit of a battlefield in your mind, and you can make plays and say, okay, we've got one node here, we
So
know
it's
there's one
kind
here,
of like
and they've got then another one there.
an interesting thing is like the old soft system with SBUs on gates kind of worked like that. It's just they were structures that had no rep cap and you could just kill them really quickly. So like there was like we saved during the Halloween war, we saved a couple systems by dropping dreads on the SBU rather than fight their super fleet on the iHub. And like I don't even think you need to spread it out in the constellation anymore. You just need them on separate grids.
Yeah,
So I mean, I'd be okay for 3 or 4 nodes in a single system. I think the constellation thing was a nice idea to spread fights out, but I don't know, like if you got if you limit the number of nodes and you got to figure out how they're going to spawn in the constellation, it becomes really random. Like this morning, we're fighting GOTG, and I prefer to go after constellations that have a large number of systems because it opens up opportunities. But
you
then you
can
get
get in and
unlucky like
stuff.
we did. Like the Declan constellations are fucking massive. 8S28 or the SB constellation where 8S28 is has 11 systems in it. But this morning, 3 nodes spawned in the same system, and there was only 6 nodes available. And then GOTG just moved their fleet there and camped it, and they got it up to 80%. And I was like, well, we're fucked. So
Yeah. So like what I always thought, like when they first announced it, what I thought they would do is you would have nodes, and if you hold the control and you have the majority of nodes, the timer would take down. The timer is depending on like what the ADM is, you know, especially for the attacker. So basically saying like it can only take so long for an Entosis fight, basically, if you have control, right? So you're not running, like you're not negating each other's progress all the time, which has happened before too. And then there's no fight happening, but like that's the complaint, at least for the last fight, I think, up in Tina, that there was 1,200 people, but nobody fought actually, because nobody can afford to actually fight, because they're gonna be stuck in a fight, and then you know the Entosis
that
war
is
is
the
still going
problem
on.
with the Entosis thing is as it is, because you do end up avoiding fights so that you don't get stuck in a situation where you're losing the nodes because you're stuck in a fight.
Yeah, and that's why the fuzzy claws were so fucking strong. Right? They would just zoom
Mhm.
around and you couldn't field anything with less than 100k EHP, because you would just get alpha anyway, even more than 100. Like if you have 100 claws, they have 2000 alpha, I believe, or 1 point something. So you need some solid chip to actually Entosis. And it was
Yeah.
just too much, right? So I'm happy they nerfed those. You know, still, I believe interdiction nullification on scepters, I'm not a big fan in general. You know, I think
I
if
don't
you
mind.
interdict it, you shouldn't have
Honestly,
any
as
guns or
much as
anything.
people hated it, the solution they came up with kind of works. Like the tackle scepters, the 4 ones that still have interdiction nullification, they suck. I mean, they're just terrible. So they're not really good for combat.
Yeah,
Like
but
we have
you
some
can get
fits
around
that kind
places
of
super
work,
safe.
but yeah, well, I don't really care about that. I'm all for things that make the game more casual. I think you could make Eve 10 times more casual and it'd still be the most complex game on the market. Like I'm all for things that make it. As I get older, like when I was in college, I didn't give a shit. I just skipped class and played Eve. But like now, I would really prefer to only have to play Eve, like 3 or 4 days a week and a couple hours a day, and not feel like I'm falling behind. So I'm all about being able to travel anywhere in Eve with virtually no risk. Like, as gay as that sounds, or as bad as that sounds. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and that comes down to, do you think like if it was more casual, we would have more players? And you know, I think more players would already, you know, solve a lot of problems in Eve actually. If we had
Well,
10 times
Eve's
the
one of
numbers,
those weird. Eve's weird as a video game. And to me, it's the only video game where the more people that play it, the better it gets. Every other video game just starts to suck the more people that play it, because it just gets more
that's kind of true.
casual. Devs start fucking catering to all the normies. But Eve, like, because it's a sandbox and there's no rules and you can shit on people. I mean, if 3 million more people started playing Eve, it'd just be 3 million more noobs, seals for you and I to club, basically.
Just
It'd be great.
imagine. Just
Yeah, no,
so
it'd be awesome.
let's just dream for a second, yeah? Let's say the Hadian thing you're aware of, right? They come out with the
Yeah.
Hadian thing and they say, "Oh, the tech is ready. We're gonna implement it. TiDi is a thing of the past, and like go ahead, fight with 10,000 people. There's not gonna be any lag or any TiDi, you know? First step. And then let's say Project Nova, which comes out in like 20 years, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if they actually work on it still.
Yeah.
But Project Nova like fucking hits home and it's like super hyped. And from Project Nova, a shit ton of people come over. And then suddenly you have like 1 million people playing Eve. And you don't have any tie-dye. Just imagine that one. That would be crazy. We wouldn't even be able to talk anymore. We would be so busy killing shit all day. Like nobody would be having the time to complain about the soft system, super styles, or anything. Yeah. And that would be beautiful, wouldn't it be? And then we would just roam around in like full fleets. You know, let's small scale roam, 250 man roam. That would be
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting. I think CCP would need a lot of corporation and alliance UI improvements and quality of life improvements to help
that's
organization on that
true.
scale. But I'd be all about it. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like people think that I guess like CSM, you know, like some people get mad because they feel like the no blocks get members on the CSM and then do things that hurt the game but help their alliances. But it's or you know anything like that where people worry that like the no blocks and the big name FCs don't care about the health of the game. We absolutely do. I would love. I am 100% committed to trying to get more people to play Eve because you know I'm super competitive and Eve is my best game and I I want more people to beat. Like it's of course I want more people to play Eve. Um
I mean, so
yeah.
far, I had a lot of different people on uh, by now, and every single one is passionate about the game and wants the game to be just good, you know. And I truly
Yeah.
believe CCP wants the game to be good too. So we're all on the same page here. And
Yeah, I mean the Team Talos stuff is promising,
that
and
is
I
true.
think I think the last few days or the last week has shown just how powerful these regular changes can be. I mean, I don't even think literally everybody is coming out with a doctrine that uses heavy missiles, and I mean, in reality, they're probably not. The heavy missiles got a 5% damage buff. They're not that, you know, they're not that much better than they used to be, but everyone's willing to try them anyway. Like, I mean, these constant changes are helping out a lot. TOTG fielded a Drake fleet today. We've got Serbs.
How
Goons
did
are
that
about to
go
deploy,
anyway?
but nothing with missiles. Oh, they dropped caps and then forgot to protect them, and we killed the caps. But you know,
Oh shit. I don't know. I didn't see anything about it.
yeah,
I just knew there was Drakes being fielded and
yeah,
we were having an
it's
eye on it.
freaking
But
great. I
I
loved
forgot.
it. I loved seeing it. It was awesome. Um, but like I mean, if just one little 5% damage buff to heavy missiles has made literally every alliance in the game introduce a heavy missile doctrine, then think about all the things we could do with constant changes that are actually smart and sensible, like the ones Talos has been coming out with. Or if they actually come out with a capital, you know, adjustment or an adjustment to citadels or an adjustment to Entosis warfare. Like these
Yeah.
not minor little changes are nice, but I'm they've got me optimistic, and if they hit the big stuff within the next 6 months, you know, then I think
That's
we can turn this ship around.
that's what I'm hoping for too, that they make some significant changes. And I think Blackout is one of those things that gave me hope in terms of okay, they're touching bigs, that they're not too afraid to, you know, make big
Yeah,
moves.
blackout was a
The way
bad
it
idea
turned out,
until it was ballsy. Yeah.
yeah. I like that they, you know, they
No, I like they
approached it
tried it. I was impressed that
exactly.
they tried it. Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly my take on it. And I still believe there's a middle ground there. Give us a 20-second delay and boom. All the botters in nullsec are
Uh,
gonna be so fucked. And they're like hunters are gonna be happy with it. 20 seconds. If you are in a super fast moving doctrine, you can warp through a system potentially in 20 seconds, right?
I
So,
don't know.
you know,
I care so little about that part of the game. I don't
it's
know. I haven't
activity.
ratted in 10 years. I don't wail like yeah.
Yeah, it's activity though, right? And that's
It
what we
is
need.
activity. No, I know it's
Daily
important.
activity.
I know it's important. It's just not the game I play.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's the game
but
I
I mean,
play though.
if they hit some of the big fight stuff, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, server performance, I don't think they can do much without introducing a completely new tech like the Hadian thing, you know, or something. I don't think there's
Well, I don't
much
think they
performance
need
you
the
can
server
squeeze
works
on.
well enough for 2 to 3,000 people. If they would just fucking if they'd make the mechanics cater to what the server is capable of, then I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. I
What do you mean?
personally like
Split the fights up?
as fun as an unlaggy 6,000 person fight would be. I'm not sure it would be. I think you would get tired of it after a while. You remember the were you ever
Oh, I don't
involved
think
in
so.
the
I
well,
disagree.
let
Come
me let
on.
me hold on, think about this for a sec. Were you involved in the Highsec battles over the perimeter Asbels where it was just
No,
Ferox and Ferox?
I looked at it though. It looked fun. We weren't.
First couple
We weren't there.
fights, people were like, this is fucking awesome. No capitals, we're just warping to 0. 400 battle cruisers are dying every fucking time. This is great. By the 6th or 7th battle, once we had min-maxed it, both sides had min-maxed it, and each side had a cache of 1,000 Ferox, and it was basically you just sat at 0 and broadcasted targets, and whoever ran out of their cache first lost. By the 6th or 7th fight, both sides FCs are like, this is the most boring thing I've ever done. We just warp at 0, and I broadcast targets for 2 hours. And there's
and
nothing complicated about it. Like, it was stupid.
and the
Like,
attackers
Killabee
should
wanted to
have.
stop. I fucking hated it. I was done.
And that's why
But
the deal was made. I think
yeah, that's
it's
why
a
the deal was made. It's
disgrace
because
of a
no one
deal.
wanted to do the fight anymore.
I want to be quite like super honest, but I think that perimeter deal is a disgrace because that's as close you can get to a blue donut as you can get. And I think I'm disappointed in some people that they didn't say like, no, no, no,
I
let's
mean,
not go that far.
it's what's interesting about Eve. I mean, we had the deal while we were fighting Fraternity. It was technically a Pan-Fam ally. We have the deal with Goons right now, and Goons are about to deploy up north and be on the opposite side of the battle with us.
Yeah, but
It's
that
an
deal
understanding.
includes everyone. That's the problem. There's no sides in that deal. It's Pan
There's
Fam,
only 3
Legacy,
alliances.
Imperium.
It's not
Ah, come
Pan-Fam. It's
on.
just Horde. It's Horde, Test, and Goons.
Well, and then Horde is splitting their profits with NC and PL, and
Do
you
you
guys
think they
probably
are?
do. I think I pretty much know they are, and I know that Goons are
Oh,
splitting their
interesting.
profits with the rest.
Well, if Goons are splitting their
Maybe,
profits, and they're are you seeing money from the perimeter keepstar from Goons cut?
I can neither deny or confirm
Ah, okay. Yeah.
any ISBN transfer, but trust me, like I don't know. I don't know if we would start a war about it, but like we weren't happy about it. If nobody would pay us for it, we would be mad. 100%. That would be shit. That would be a shit deal. And I also see us as one of the groups that would actually be a pain in the ass to deal with in Highsec, right? So I think you guys should be like interested in, not having that happen. I guess.
Well,
Belgium trying
see
to
some
start a war here.
stars in chat.
What is it gonna be like a frig 101 in a thingy side, Belgium? Come on, you gotta grow up, grow your dudes, and start a real war.
Oh, I love saying that to people. They're like, "Why isn't there more content?" And I'm like, "No one's stopping you from starting your own alliance, man. Just get 400 people to join you. They'll join your fleets, and you can make all the fucking content you want."
Yeah, and I want to see people drop Titans. Yeah, I know. I mean, we all want to. I
Yeah.
mean, just go to Dev.
I
You'll
just
see
love when
people drop
people are like,
Titans.
they feel like the FCs are like having some kind of conspiracy where none of the we're like some kind of fucking secret cabal that's preventing you guys from getting content because I don't even know. Like, why the fuck would the FCs not, create as much content as they possibly could? It's
So
not like we're holding out on you guys.
that's actually a funny. So what I've got on my list here is the whole Discord thing. I know you've talked about Discord before. Discord changed the game to a degree. So
Yeah, yeah.
let me explain why this is a connection here, right? I believe before Discord, every alliance had their own little thing. Some used IRC, another one just Jabber, and maybe maybe CVA used ICQ. I don't know, right? But everyone had their own little tool, and that way, having connections with, like, for example, the two of us, we wouldn't really easily be connected and be able to talk to each other, right? It's not like I could just go into the Talking in Stations Discord, which is usually if you're looking for someone, a lot of people are on there, right? So I
It
would just
definitely
convo
made
you over
everything
there.
easier.
It's
So
way
I mean,
easier to get in contact
so
and talk to
before
each other.
Discord, Skype was the most popular coordination tool
Oh,
among
yeah.
FCs and alliance leaders, which obviously has its issues. But I mean, technically it worked. I mean, whenever we had a war, we got everybody into a group chat in Skype. Sometimes we'd use it for voice. it's just not like Discord made everything easier. Like Skype was a little rough around the edges, and like once you got Discord there, it just became so simple to get groups of people together and quickly coordinated. And then once everyone starts using it, they understand how, the standard practices that every alliance uses. It's like World War B was when Discord came out, and we were like, Lenny was paying any alliance he could find to shoot goons, and we just invite him to the Discord, spend 5 minutes explaining to their FCs what the plan was, and boom, they were able to join fleets the next day and be perfectly coordinated. That was never possible before. And it's just it made everything easier to coordinate. It's easy to start up a new Discord server and generate roles and do all that stuff. Skype was difficult. I think Goons had a spy in the coordination channel for the Halloween war, because you couldn't like divide things by roles or anything. So that one of the FCs in the coordination channel was flipped by Goons, and they knew everything we were planning the entire war. That wouldn't be as easy to do in Discord now. Still possible, but now if we do a coordination Discord, you get the super important people in one channel and the other FCs in a slightly lower channel. You're able to divide the information up a little bit. It's easy to pull anyone in the voice. I mean, you do this all the time. Like, I mean, all FCs do. If you got random alliances that never work together, but you realize you're all there for the same fight, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, join this Discord chat real quick. Let's all jump on comms and coordinate, and boom, it's global FC chat at the snap of a finger. It's it's
But so,
it's very
yeah,
useful.
like my take on it is more like the hostile groups. Like, so for example, we had war, no matter how long we had war, in 2000, let's say 2008, 9, 10, we wouldn't have a means to communicate with each other all that much. And I know you're one of those guys that just likes talk, like convo someone and just, shoot with like some, whatever, shoot the shit,
Yeah,
and just like throw some words
yeah,
out there, see what
you've
you get
noticed
back.
that. Yeah,
And
you've noticed.
yeah, yeah. And, you know, they like, so back in the day that wouldn't happen. I mean, you could have always convert in game, which you did also before, but you didn't have that contact. So this PGL guy, I wouldn't know the guy at all. So it's way easier for us to have like a grudge towards like this PGL guy, or be it Vince from NC, or be it Killer B, or be it whoever it is, or Headliner, right? It was way easier to have that grudge a little bit going. But like, for example, what I'm doing, I'm talking to, like, we're all kind of the
So you
same.
think because Discord's made it easier for everyone to communicate that everyone's friends now?
No, I'm not saying everyone's friends, but I'm saying it's way easier to suddenly be friends, and switch, and then it's way harder to find those grudges. I mean, do you know of any grudge really that's going on between like FCs?
I
It's
know
not,
Vince and Matani don't like each other.
but that's basic. That's the extent of it, right? There's not a whole lot going
There's
on.
some grudges. I think so. Some of it might be Discord, and some of it might be that the game's just older, and most of the people who are running alliances have been playing for 10 years instead of 5 now, and they just all know each other just over the years. Like before the last couple of years, I had never fought on the same side of goons, and now I've fought on the same side of goons for over a year now. I mean, we're not doing it right now, but it's been quite a while, and now I know a lot of goon people that I never knew before. And
And turns
I
out they're
used to
all
have one of the
alright.
most I used to have one of the most public famous hate grudges for goons, and we ended up working on the same side.
Yeah, I
I
remember
think
that.
as much as it pains me to say it, Matani's right when the real politique of the situation ends up playing out. Usually, people work with who they need to work with to win, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I was actually surprised when Imperium and Legacy actually banded together for UALX. And there's an awesome trailer to
Yeah.
it. Like, I
Well, I
just
mean,
rewatched it yesterday or something.
before the war, like Matani and I had to sit down and basically be like, look, we used to hate each other, but this strategically makes sense to work together, so let's bury it. And we did.
And
So I mean, yeah, there were still some hate grudges for sure.
and like Baltrum, who was in in chat also. He's, by the way, he's also streaming. You guys should check it out. He's like doing small scale stuff in low-sec. But he is like pushing, like saying, like the typical stuff I get all the time. Why is it still an Imperium?
Wait,
Like, why don't you
wait.
leave?
So Baltrum does small stuff in low sec. What the fuck is he talking about null sec then? He doesn't know anything.
He's a good
I don't
dude.
tell you how to roam in low sec because I don't do it.
He's a pirate role player. There you go.
Oh my god.
But like
He
that's the
should role
typical
play
thing.
being a knowledgeable player. Maybe he should role play that.
But one of the reasons I
Sorry.
say it's very hard for us to leave the Imperium is also like we work together with them. They never betrayed us, unlike other groups in the game. And we've like slowly become friends with all these other FCs, like Jay and Asher, and like Kenda wasn't when he was still in Goons. Like he's, that's just how it is. And then to suddenly turn around and say like, that plays a role. It might not be the major decider, but if you work together with someone for years, it's a different story. You're not just leaving or whatever. Especially
Yeah,
during World War
but
B,
like,
people push for it. That's a no go anyway. When you're in war with your guys, you're not gonna leave the coalition. Whatever. But people
yeah.
keep pushing for it for some reason. I don't know.
I don't mind the hate grudge stuff going away a little bit. Eve used to have some really shady shit happen because
True.
people took it a little more seriously than they should. I don't if people started treating Eve like a game again, that I'd say that's a positive change.
That is actually true. I don't see much people
You don't see it
going
as much
after.
anymore, do you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. Wasn't that like? Do you have any good story? Maybe
Well,
someone
I
going
mean,
like too
I
far.
used to I used to fucking hate goons because of a lot of people used to hate goons because of Digiblast. I think it was Digiblast. I know his name was Digi. I hope if the Digiblast is not the same one I'm talking about, sorry for saying that name, but their counter intel guy, Digi, went crazy for a little while, and there's some famous stories. I mean, the most famous one is when he researched Manny, and I don't want to relitigate it, but he leaked private details about Manny that no one knew, and basically, leaked it to the whole game to embarrass him because Manny had a spy in their alliance, and he figured it out. And even goons had to come down on Digi and say, "This isn't who we are. We're really sorry." They had to apologize to Manny, even though he was in PL and it was goons and they were fighting each other. And he did that to other people. There's famous stories about doxing and hacking and people stealing passwords and all kinds of crazy shit. The whole counter intel game in general, back in the early part of this decade or last decade now, um, used to see some pretty shady shit go down. I wouldn't mind if the game got a little more casual in that regard too.
Well, yeah, now talking about it, I totally agree. I mean, I would like to have more like grudges in the game, but obviously people would take it
There are
too.
people,
I
there
mean,
are
Gigx
groups
a
that I
good
would
example.
love to be, yeah. But I don't know. At this point, I've fought with everybody. I've worked with everybody. It doesn't stop me from finding content. And generally, honestly, like once we start shooting somebody, I'm so competitive. Within a week or two, their FCs have said totally reasonable stuff, but
You hate it.
because that I hate it anyway. I fucking hate them. I'm like,
Uh,
look at these guys not showing respect. Fuck them.
you never thought bad about us, though, right? I mean,
Oh, I don't know about that.
oh damn it! I wish I would have wiped out fucking Hurricane Fleet out. God damn
Oh
it!
yeah, that would have really pissed me off.
Ah, I could have imagined PGL
Yeah.
shaking his fist. And you're famous. Like that's actually part of the introduction that I didn't even come to. But you're famous for your raging, right? And there's very so let
Yeah.
me say like let me say something though. Whenever FCs ask me like, oh, like can you give me tips or can you like how to FC and stuff, I'm always like never like don't rage at people unless you're funny, right? If you're funny and it works, that might just be an advantage. And in your case, it's funny, right? So it's more than a meme, more a meme than anything. All you guys in Fleet
Yeah,
know
I
he's
mean,
not
like
serious about it, In
a,
this
a lot of
moment, yes.
people a lot of people who join tests, they'll end up coming up to me after a couple weeks, and they're like, "Dude, we thought you would rage all the time," and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Man, that's like, those are like 3 recorded clips in 7 years." Like,
yeah.
you're hearing an extremely cherry picked version. Like, I do rage. I rage more than the average FC, but, like, and a lot of people, who've never been in my fleets will sit there and I get all the PMs and Reddit comments and stuff. They're like, "You're a douchebag, you're an asshole," and I'm like, I mean, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't think I am, but ask any of the people in our alliance if they're not joining my fleets because I rage or something like that. Most of them are pretty aware that it's all in good fun, and yeah, it's not always like a joke. Like sometimes I'm pretty pissed, but like I grew up playing American football. I don't know if you see any of the movies or see any of the stereotypes, but they're all true. Coaches yell at you, they hit you, they do all kinds of shit. You learn to that's the kind of environment I grew up playing competitive sports,
So you
competitive
you
games,
learned
whatever. And
better.
so like you take things serious, when it's a game, when it's a competitive game, like you get intense, you want to win. Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
people,
I don't like rage at people, like I don't single anyone out. Well, sometimes I do, but like never like in a malicious way. There's ways to yell at people in a way that's like, come on, guys, let's go. Take this seriously. Get your shit together. We can win this thing.
that's one of the
It's
things I
it's
used to
it's
say all the time.
never it's never malicious, I would say. And I don't think anyone's ever really had an issue with it. I've only ever once had someone come to me after the fleet and be like, "Hey, man, I didn't appreciate you doing that," and I apologized to him. I said, "Sorry, that wasn't okay." Um,
I had that before on rocker saves. That's the shit where like I don't have any
Patience.
patience or
Yeah.
understanding. Like you form a fleet, you take them out, and then you're out for like 20 minutes, and then someone's like paying it. Oh, my rocker is tackled. That kind of shit. That just and if it's the same guy over and over again, oh, like I'm so close. And I actually rage at someone. Um, I forgot what exactly happened there. But like he fucked everything up what he could fuck up. First he doesn't panic,
Yeah.
then he doesn't this, and that. Like he makes everyone's life harder. And then when like I had like 70 people there formed for this one guy to save his ass, and then he has this entitled tone on like, oh, but I lost one of my raw calls, like as if he expects as a like I lost my shit. It's like I'm forming 70 people here because you're too dumb, and then I raged so hard at him, and I actually like a week later I went to the channel and apologized. Even if I still believe like that dude, like it's a mindset issue. If it's a mindset that I can see, like it's not because he didn't know or he made a mistake. Like it's his mindset getting in the way, and like everyone else has to suffer for it.
Yeah, no,
That's
so
the problem.
I will come down on someone hard if they are wasting everyone's time and are flippant about it. Um, there was one guy, I can't remember his name, but I kicked out a test because he was holding everyone up. It's a 200-person fleet. He was fucking up, and I asked him about it, and he's like, "Well, dude, I don't give a shit. Fuck you guys." And
Yeah.
I went off on him and kicked him, and like if you make mistakes, like I might remind you about it. Like if you're not paying attention, I might raise my voice to wake you up, but I'm not mad at you. Mistakes happen. I want you to do better next time, and we'll work on it. But like if you're doing something with like a fuck you attitude that's wasting everyone else's time, then yeah, I will come down on someone hard. I did the same thing to a Rorqual pilot. No, it wasn't a Rorqual pilot. It was some cap pilot back when we were in Vale. He jumped his cap in when we told him not to jump capitals in, and we had to spend like an hour saving him, and waste jump fatigue and everything. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? He was like, it's my capital. I'll do what I want. I don't care. And I just went off on him, and
Yeah, it's the type of stuff.
like
Yeah. That's exactly the type of stuff. That's the only thing I really like lose my mind about too. Like when people
yeah.
like they don't even think about that. Actually, there's 100 people in this fleet, and they're all like I'm wasting everyone's time just because of your actions right now. And those actions were
Yeah.
not a minor mistake, but you didn't give a shit. You didn't think about it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the stuff.
Yeah. It's the when they're like, I don't care about the other people thing. That's when I get
Yeah.
pissed. Yeah.
So you're not even that ragey. I mean, more than
I
usual,
mean,
more
I'm
than
intense.
average, but
Like, no, I asked to test people. I'm intense. I was so
I
I
knew
slept
that.
through one of the fleets this morning, and the other FCs had to form it, and I got there halfway through, and they were doing a fine job. But after the fleet, they were like, any constructive criticism? And I was like, you guys did everything great, just louder and more aggressively. Like, just talk louder and say more things and be angry. Like, I was like, you got 150 battle cruisers at 20 kilometers on 150 battle cruisers. That's a fast fight. You got to be intense. So it's just funny. Like, I don't know. It's no other game does this to me. Maybe I've raged in PlanetSide before, but really no other game does this to me. It's Eve is just the stakes are higher. I
Yeah,
don't know what it is. That's why I love it. I tell people a lot, like, Eve is really not that great of a game. There's just nothing else like it. Like, it's got a lot of faults, and I say that it's a great game. It's you play it long enough, and the faults, they become too hard to ignore. But regardless, there's no other game that even remotely comes close. So it's I don't know what it is, but it's the game that does that to me.
yeah. I think like that's the interesting aspect. I always thought maybe there's gonna be another game coming out. Let's say Star Citizen or anything that might just get all the Eve players, but I don't see that happen. I don't see another game come out that's so
They keep
intense with
talking
a rich
about
history.
games that are gonna kill Eve. Albion Online was supposed to be it, and then no one gives a shit about it. There's a couple other games like
Yeah.
Black Desert Online has a lot of similar. So I thought it was interesting that Pearl Abyss bought Eve because like Black Desert Online has a lot of similar mechanics, but it's not the same.
I mean, not everything. We like. I'm always. I don't try to be critical of CCP or of the game in general. I just say what I think. It might be good, might be bad, but I am critical, definitely, right? But over time, over the years, they for sure also did some really good stuff, right?
Yeah, I
They
mean,
did
like
some stuff right.
I'm not. I like CCP. There's certain devs within CCP that I won't name that I feel like are you know, there's devs that are doing a better job than others, but that's the case in any company. For the most part, I know they care about the game. I know they want it to be just as successful as we want it to be. Eve is probably one of the harder games to be a developer on. I mean, it is impossible to balance. It is just so fucking hard. So like people are like, God, CCP making these bullshit changes. I'm like, guys, you know, after you've been here long enough and you've seen like things that the players asked for go into the game and then not work out, and you're like, well, not even the players know what fucking works. Like nobody knows what fucking works. Like it's a tough game to balance. A
Yeah,
lot of the
and
stuff that's in the game right now that people hate, the players directly asked for, and CCP gave them what they wanted, and it sucks. Like it's just Eve's not easy, man.
yeah, a lot of people underestimate that the whole problem of like balancing this game. It's the most complex game out there. I always
Yeah,
thought about making a video of like why is Eve actually the hardest game ever? I mean, hardest
I
game to
think it's the
play.
hardest game ever by
Yeah,
far. I don't think anything
because
comes
because
close.
I would split it up like for a game like let's say for StarCraft. StarCraft is a fucking tough game to learn, but there's certain skills you need, and it's like let's say you can split it up in three different skills you really need to be good at. Some are better in one or the other, but in Eve you have like I don't know 10 skills you have to be really good at if you want to like obviously we see it from an FC perspective, right? That's what we think is probably um, you know, the end game, I would say. which sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it has the most complex skill set that you need to learn, right? It's like it doesn't stop with just game mechanics. The social part is super important too, right? Especially
Yeah.
someone in a big alliance or big coalition, even like you are. You know, sometimes you don't have to be the best FC. Sometimes you have to be the best hype man. You know, get people excited about shit,
Yeah,
and I
I
think
think
that's
the
where
most
you're
fun I
really
ever
good
had
at.
with that. I think the most fun I ever had where that was like really visible. You remember when Destiny, that streamer Destiny came and started
Yeah,
playing
I've
Eve?
seen that. Yeah.
Started his whole corp and he was gonna do things. Like he never did shit. Tons of people joined his corp because he's Destiny, but like, they couldn't do anything. Like everyone, the bigger groups just came and shat on him whenever they wanted. And he got all mad about it. On his stream, he's like, Eve's impossible. This is bullshit. He'll start repairing it.
If I ever make that video, I'm gonna find
Yeah.
that and put it
It
in
was
there.
so funny. Destiny, it was just like, oh, Eve is so dumb. It's so unbalanced. This game's so unfair. And everyone's like, get dunked, nerd. Like, it was
Well, he made himself a big target, obviously,
Yes,
right?
a lot of people don't know that. You can't Eve is one game where like even someone like me and I like to talk a lot of shit. I learned the hard way early on that you got to be careful what you say cuz
Yeah.
there's nothing protecting you. The entire game can group up on you and decide to shit on you and there's literally nothing you can do about it. So you got to play the game with the rest of them.
Yeah, I fucked up a few times too, where I'm like, oh, okay, let me just, bail out and not fucking keep discussing shit or whatever. And yeah,
Lesson learned kind of thing, yeah.
yeah. It's a very like that's also no other game has like the social part of it, the propaganda, the spin, the narrative of like and then wars over months and years and stuff. Like I don't see any game ever reach that depth,
Yeah.
you know. They will always die before you can even have the big history, part of it. They will always die before that.
Yeah, and it's why I wish we had done a better job of keeping the history. Andrew Groen's books are really good. Empire's Eve 1 and 2. I've read both of. Well, I've read the second one now. Because I have an advanced copy. But it's even and he did as good a job as he could. He's a great writer, but like I read his book and I was like, God, this only scratches the surface of what really happened. And it's 330 pages long. So,
Yeah.
or something like that, like 250 pages or something, and it barely scratches the surface. I wish we had done a better job of recording it. Like, I'm not even sure if there's an archive of the Kugu forums. In the Kugu forums, if you had it from 2010 to 2015, you had the story of everything that happened. A lot of the old killboard links don't work anymore, all that stuff. I wish we had done a better job of keeping the history, but it kind
Well,
of becomes an oral history at this point, and it's
yeah,
interesting.
it's like in real life, the first tribes and they're telling stories and shit, and then they give them over to their kids, and the kids are gonna I'm gonna tell the stories, and at some point, the pro god legend, like he might just be a mystical fucking creature.
Oh, Jesus, come on.
But those stories are gonna get deformed, and not everything is gonna be just true. It's like a Game of Thrones kind of type. I'm sure you've
Yeah.
seen Game of Thrones. So suddenly, Robert's
Yeah,
rebellion.
unfortunately.
There's a different. Unfortunately,
No, that
yeah.
stuff it's weird, man. That's the weirdest thing about this game is you've got like the stories and all that and it's it's funny stuff.
Yeah, I love it though. I mean, all the spin and stuff. In the moment, sometimes it gets super frustrating. But if you take some distance and look at it, and you're like, well played. If people spin their little thing or whatever, right? It's just an entertaining part of the whole thing. You know what? I blame Reddit a little bit though. I think if Reddit wasn't so much in the shitter, we would have a better time playing Eve 2, and we would have more people playing Eve.
Well,
Because
Reddit is just a terrible platform.
it's so
The
bad.
whole website of Reddit needs to be deleted. But.
Now I think others. I don't know what other subreddits, but the Eve subreddit, it's lost.
Well, we were
Hit the
talking about
hit the
it in
refresh
No
button.
Leaks. And we were talking about it in No Leaks, and they're like, let's just bring Kugu back and, restrict it to certain people. And they're like, basically, what you want is like the No Leaks channel where everyone just reads it and nobody gets to post there. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that actually. If there was like only 50 people in Eve who could talk about Eve, and no one else was allowed to have an opinion, that'd be okay with me. Which
Yeah,
I know is awful and selfish and like, arrogant and all that, but fuck you. I don't care.
and for those who wonder, No Leaks is the Discord that Sword Dragon started ages ago when he first got on the CSM, I think, right? And he invited like all kinds of FCs, and it's like basically where all the FCs hang out. Which is again, the whole Discord thing. It's way easy to get in contact with other FCs and leaders and stuff like this. So maybe Sword Dragon is responsible, guys. It's all his fault that we have the blue donut and stuff. That could be a spin, I'm just, just giving you new material, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, we are approaching 2 hours. At 2200, at 2200, actually, CCP is gonna take over the whole Plex for good stream fleet thing. And guys, if you have any questions, put them in the Twitch chat right now, because then I can bring it up still. We still have like 8 minutes because I want to host these guys. And if you haven't donated for Plex for good yet, which is one of those things they're actually done right, I think. I mean, that's an awesome kind of thing to do, to say, okay, you can take the in-game currency you've got, turn it into Plex, and they're gonna, put it into like, what's it called? A charity thing. That's like I don't think any other games company does a similar thing, right? So if you haven't donated yet, you should, because it's going to run out in 2 hours and 10 minutes, and then you won't have the chance to. And I'm not sure if you get anything out of it. There's probably going to be like some fucking skin or so, right? So you should all donate like 2,000 plex each, and make sure you get one.
Yeah.
I might be lying to you right now, but hey. Yeah, guys, make sure you donate.
Also, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, man. That's unreal.
What, Kobe Bryant died?
Yeah, he died 2 hours ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, sorry to put a damper on the mood, but I was reading about it during the show. There was a time there where I wasn't talking and it was kind of dead air, and that's when I saw the news. So.
And then what came first, Stukas or Goku? Goku's were first, all right? But yeah. Stukas had a different approach to it, okay?
Yeah.
and then the Gokus took on the Stuka approach. Let's be honest here. You didn't do the whole MGD trick before we did it.
Right. I had done it before, just not like you guys are doing it. You guys are doing it more often and more efficiently. There's a video on my Twitch channel of us booshing towards a hurricane fleet and then bombing, but yeah, not like you guys are doing it.
Yeah, I think we, like, on the whole Stuka Goku thing, I think it's, we share the responsibility to a degree.
Hey, I mean, any FC who recognized how good AB bombers are, that's they gain points in my book. So.
Yeah. And then also, what I learned there too, what we talked about earlier, so we had Snatch going, which is an armor doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thought was, all right, I'm just going to take Snatch, change it a bit, and then do it with Snatch. Would have been fine. But I decided to make it a different doctrine, and then to cut it, so it's not as complicated, I went to Shield, and then obviously you guys were running Gokus. So I was looking at your fits, thinking, okay, like, so that's what they're running. And then I decided to go a little bit cheaper because, it should be like an all-round bomber fit, so, it's easier to see and all that stuff. But then I also realized, like, yeah, the signature is a bit bigger, the EHP is lower, but the survivability is way higher, and that's because of the shield reps in those, right? So if your frig is still alive,
frig doctrines pretty much have to be shield, unfortunately.
Yeah. And that's like one of those lessons I really learned. I feel like when we did the whole Stukas thing and switched to it, like, oh yes, actually they're actually quite tanky just because we get them locked quick enough. And I thought at the time, arrogant me was thinking, that's a lesson I already knew. Like, nah, not to that degree,
Yeah,
so it was quite interesting.
AB bombers are fun. They're most fun, and you've learned this. I've seen y'all do it all the time. When you're a third party fleet, or you've got another friendly fleet there to take most of the attention. They're super effective as a support doctrine. They're just so annoying.
Yeah. Oh, another thing on my list. How happy are you about shield slaves coming?
Oh, I mean, they definitely need. Well, I like them being in the game, not because of the Supers of Titans. I don't give a shit about Supers of Titans and never do. But I like it because you could do stuff with subcaps now with shield slaves. It wasn't possible before. You can finally tank vultures if you really feel like it. If you've got like a shield AT ship or something. I don't know. I like them
Well,
being in the game because slaves are in the game, so you could do stuff with shield tanks, just like you could do with armor tanks. I don't ever care about Supers and Titans. I will say that when they did the fax nerf, armor supers gained an advantage because you can dual tank them. You can't dual tank shield caps or shield supers and Titans. And if for those of you who don't realize it, the reason it works with armor is because all of your EHP is in armor. So when you're at 60% armor and you're getting shield reps and armor reps, all those they have to kill those shields that you get repped every single time to get back to your armor. Once when you're a shield tank ship, all your EHP is in shield. So if you've got 60 million shield EHP or just ship EHP and 50 million of it is in shield, while they're burning through that 50 million shield effective hit points, you're not getting any armor reps because they're not shooting your armor. By the time they get to your armor, you only got 10 million EHP left. The dual reps don't fucking matter. So the armor with the fax nerfs and the rep cap, the armor supers and Titans got a huge buff. Of course, super battles are so rare we never even really got to see it. So the shield slays, they're probably a little too strong now, but shield supers needed something to balance them against the armor supers, which already, they're better in small gang situations. They have utility mids, and then they got the dual tank, which they could switch to. Shield supers really only have the ability to full tank and use damage mods, which is useful in the fax nerf um meta, but I think we worked out the math and the dual tank was, unless it's like 300 versus 300, which is of course, say how Titan fights happen now, but in a lot of situations the armor supers were better. This will balance it out a little bit, probably slightly in favor of shield supers in a large battle, but then once one shield supers or armor supers, one's always going to be slightly better than the other, and the armor supers have the advantage in hot dropping and whaling and doing all kinds of other cool stuff. So, if armor supers are better for small gang and shield supers are better for fleet fights, I don't see a problem with that. Of course, it's easy for me to say that. I have a shield super fleet, but it's not like we cared when armor supers were better, so it is what it is.
well, you guys switched at a time where everyone thought, oh, soon shield slaves are gonna come out.
We switched, but we thought they might eventually do it, but we switched to shield supers because we felt like if we could ever get in a situation like UALX and we used them like exactly like we wanted to in UALX, we felt they were better at range, and they were better at range, so we were right.
All right. So one question from Fake T, aka Fobber, who's actually responsible for all
Yeah.
um, the graphics and shit like this. Like he made the whole FC chat thing and all that stuff. What is PGL's opinion about the CSM voting system? Does it need a change? Like we talked
No.
about that last time with Killer Bee. We actually ran the numbers. So my issue was always that the trickle down thing, like your vote counts. Like you vote for number one guy and he gets elected, but he has so many votes and then those trickle down. And I believe they shouldn't trickle down because that gives big coalitions or alliances like the easiest way to actually distribute their votes. And I'm not a big fan of that.
STV is, I mean, it's a very well thought out system. It's not like CCP came up with it. That's political scientists who came up with it, and it's a fair system. I mean, if you don't like goons
It's
getting
not the
4 or 5
worst.
members on there, then This is democracy. Like democracy, like God, it's got such a
But
retarded
so
reputation.
a,
It's not good. Democracy sucks.
a political scientist came up with it, but
Yeah.
he came up with it for the sake of like a country or a whatever, right? Something like this
Hmm.
to vote. This is a little different though. So now on the CSM, you want diversity of like opinions and point of views. You don't want
Well,
all the same
then,
point of view.
yeah. Well, democracy sucks. I mean, if you don't like the outcome,
But you
then
can have
don't have
both.
democracy.
But you could have both, is my argument. You could make it at least to a degree so that.
Yes, you could make the outcome less democratic, and I'm always for less democracy to an extent. So yeah, please do it.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it gets the right results, this is a game after all. Let's not forget it,
Hmm.
right? It's not like we're talking about like World War III here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just my take on it. So you think it's all right how it is?
Yeah, it's a fine system. I
All
mean,
right.
I don't I never think half of the CSM is useful anyway, a lot of people who get elected. But then again, I think only FC should be on there. So
You think only FCs should be on there?
yeah,
You know what? I agree that if it was only FCs, it wouldn't be the worst CSM. It would be probably the best. But yeah,
yeah,
that you can have some. It's good to have some industry guys on there for sure. Like that, probably Aerith probably knows a lot about like the Oracle numbers and stuff like this. It's probably good to have that on.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
But the
someone.
second there's an FC question and someone who doesn't have FC experience speaks up and influence the whole thing, that's not good, obviously.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, CSM's all right. It's got its faults, but I think it does a pretty decent job as long as it's got good people on it.
Yeah, well, I don't know a whole lot of the CSM guys, I have to say. I know Villy to a degree. I know Killerby. I mean, Killerby is not on anymore. I know Sword Dragon a little bit, same as Villy, I would guess. But yeah. ESA for CSM? No, guys, not ESA for CSM. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. CCP is not on yet. They should be streaming in a minute though. Let's see if I've got one more question on the thingy. And other than that, I'm probably gonna let you go here in a sec. Anyone? Any good questions, guys? Yeah. So that's what I skipped over earlier. Like, what do you think is the most important quality of an FC, or like an underrated quality? What do you think? Just a general question.
An underrated quality for an FC.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, that's interesting. I mean, you could say like all the basics, like calmness under pressure, knowledge of the game. I don't know. That's like,
I mean, you kind of said it earlier with the pie thing, maybe.
yeah,
That's an underrated
yeah.
quality,
I
probably.
think I think understanding Python and how to use it is very underrated.
Just having the numbers in your head a little bit. That's also where support FCs come in very often. Like, for example, we have like guys that like the whole pie thing and the stuff, the theory crafting part way more than FC in themselves. For example, a guy like Falz. I'm not sure if he's watching, but Falz is one of those guys. Hey, like, what's the lowest resist on this and this? Boom, he knows it, right? It's like super useful to have a guy like that always in your FC team a little bit. Or like, what's the range, lock range, missile range, whatever range, right? Like, to have guys around that always know all the thingies. If you get surprised by a doctrine, let's say Foons, nobody uses Foons. I I guess I know kind of what range they have, but I don't know exactly. And with the fit they use and all that stuff, so it's good to have people around that can.
Yeah.
Alrighty. All mechas coming on with the host. Just the moment I was about to shut down and say, hey, there should be the CCP stream coming on any moment, guys. I'm gonna send you. I'm basically waiting for them to get online so I can send you guys over.
Nice.
And then I'm sure on Mecha talked about it before. Like, you should donate Plex for goods, right? Make sure you do that. I mean, what you gonna do with ISK? You know what I mean? I think you said it earlier too. You don't even have any ISK or assets or whatever. Like, I've never been rich in EVE or whatever. I've got plenty of ISK, but I always thought it's overrated to have a ton of ISK. It's not. It's, it doesn't do much for you. Get all the things you need, and once you got that, should be fine. And yeah.
Yeah, well, like, I mean, obviously I get SRP on my FC ships, and I don't do anything else other than SRP. I mean FC. So it's frustrating sometimes. Like it's I don't know. Like sometimes I want to buy some things, but I just FCing it, like FCing and kind of organizing alliance, as is it takes up as much time as you can put into it, and I don't have enough time to put into it. So when would I have the time to solo PvP or do any of this stuff? Like I already neglect some of the things that I'm supposed to be doing just from lack of time. So like I don't have time to solo PvP or go run. What are the shit the kids are doing these days? The abyssal shit or whatever it is, or the low sex sites. I don't know. I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah. For the guys who wondered, like, yeah, I've got the sounds off for alerts and stuff like this, especially on the podcast version, which is, by the way, now on Spotify. Like, so it was on Spotify before, but it took a little bit of time because the Talking Stations guys who do that for me, which I'm very thankful for, they had some issues going on, and so it took a long time. So we have one guy now, like, he uploads it like 24 hours later because Twitch has this rule in place for live content, right? You can't post that anywhere else within 24 hours. So it's gonna be on Spotify and stuff. And then having the Twitch alerts and stuff on, it's slightly disturbing. And also for me, it's distracting too, right? So I turned those off. But much appreciated. Any follows, subs, or posts or whatever, obviously, right? And then let's see. Someone said CCP is up. I didn't see it yet. Oh, there it is. All right, guys. Then I would just say thanks for showing up, PGL, and I think there was some interesting stuff, and I hope you guys all enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me. 2 hours went by quick. I didn't even realize it was 2 hours.
Yeah, you know what? That's surprising to me too. Like when I started this, I always thought talking in stations and so on, it's always a little bit short because people just warm up within an hour. And I was worried that it takes too long if I do 2 hours. But yeah, they always go by quick. So, was easy to talk to you. So, guys, let's raid CCP. Let's see what they have to do. I have to say, I think it's gonna be Convict doing the roam first, and then he's gonna talk about the whole Plex for Good thing. So thanks again. Thanks for the support, guys, and see ya on the other side, yo.
All right then.
All right.